switching to production software that this will not be a problem with next time.
That's on the list.
All right.
No, I just found this out last night. Sorry, that like
There's an option to this?
yeah, where we can just press go live in one place.
Alrighty.
All the things go live.
Okay, so I'm learning things from the production booth. So, hello and welcome a second time, this time to all of you folks out on YouTube.
Maybe they're just a different time zone.
It's true. It's true. This is the CosmoQuest Hangout-a-Thon 2023 Volume 2. Second chances because space is hard. This morning I am here with two of my longest and favorite volunteers, Guido and Gordon. This hour is apparently brought to you by the letter G. We are here to discuss time zones because those of us here in North America last night shifted our clocks, or in my case, had our clocks shift themselves while we were asleep, to be in a different place than they were when we slept, which was awesome. We gained an hour, but in the spring we shall suffer. We shall pay for the glory that was today and hate it later on. Now, Gordon, you are Canadian, sir.
Yes.
You are from the same nation as the man that inflicted a world that was not one time zone, but attempted to be 24.
Oh, attempted to be many. It
Well.
attempted to be many. He was trying to fix a problem.
Well, he was trying to inflict 24 on a world that was many.
Yes.
Okay.
He was trying to bring order to the chaos and allow people. So, remember, before we had long distance communications, before we had long distance transportation, before we had electricity, when the sun rose and when the sun set was the defining characteristic for the day. And there's the concept of high noon. And high noon is literally when the sun is at the highest point in the sky. That's noon. And that's different everywhere.
Yeah.
And so one town is going to have a different high noon than another town that's, 50 miles away.
And because of the equation of time, high noon actually sweeps back and forth a little bit in time. So high noon does not stay constant for your location.
No, but it's always when the sun is highest.
It's true, but...
That just might not be the same time every day.
Right.
Yeah. So, as you can see, this can cause people to miss trains. And time zones came about because of trains. Trains allowed people to go farther distances than they've been able to go before. Prior to trains, you were limited by what you could do in a boat or by horse, basically. Those were the fast things that were available to you.
Yeah.
You say, well, I'm going to get there at about 6 p.m. That's fine. That's going to work when you're traveling by horse. Doesn't work when you're traveling by train if you're going east or west. Because that's where things really make a difference. It's when you travel east or west. And so time zones came about. They were proposed. There were initially, I believe, 3 proposed in North America in 1 year. And then there was, about a year later, there was Sir Sanford Fleming went to basically an international symposium on time or convention on time, and they defined standardized time zones. So that lets you and me figure out when we're going to meet, because I live in Eastern time, you live in Central. Guido lives in Central Europe, right?
Yeah, this is UTC +1, basically.
Yeah. And so Guido mentions UTC, and UTC doesn't stand for Universal Time Coordinated.
No.
It stands for Coordinated Universal Time. Because in French it would be yet another acronym, and no one could decide agree upon whether they're going to use the French acronym or the English acronym, so they just came up with an acronym. And Guido and I were talking before this, and we like UTC. I'm quite happy to work in the UTC world. Anyone who works in the aviation world or the space world is working in the UTC time frame, and if they're not, they're weird. They're the exception to the rule. I used to be a satellite mission planner, as you know, and I worked in an office that had 5 clocks on it. We had a clock for UTC, we had a clock for each of our receiving stations, a clock for where we were, and there was another clock for where, I think it was where the European Space Agency people that we dealt with were located. Or it might have been the people at CNES in France.
Yeah.
But everybody talks UTC. And this is, I think we even have a command for it, and I know that Fenmill utters it, it's the one ring for time zones, UTC, one ring to bind them, to join them.
I have no idea if that's a command.
See, that just makes it sound creepy.
Yeah, it's true.
It keeps everybody on the same page. All you have to know is what your offset is from UTC. The problem we had this weekend is we changed our offset. Last weekend, Britain changed their offset.
There's several weeks per year when I no longer know when anyone is.
Yeah.
One of our staff, Vivi Yamani, over in Bandung, Indonesia, most of the time she and I are 12 hours off of each other, which makes finding meetings very hard, but makes doing internet-based projects very easy because we just switch things from one person to the other as the world rotates. But there's this few weeks a year when I have to ask her, when are you? And the same is true, but less convenient because I always have to do math to figure out when Guido is.
Yeah.
But the math changes. And that's one of those things that shouldn't change. But daylight savings time? Now, it used to be the entire globe for the most part. There's always holdouts that do weird stuff.
Tucson.
It used to be that Europe and America all switched at once. And then there was... And Australia. And then there was the George W. Bush presidency. Why on earth did we change when we do daylight savings time?
So it has changed many times. And I mean, what you have to think about is, why did daylight saving time come into being? And one of the stories is, and I'm going to place the blame on your country.
That's fair. I think I already started to.
Benjamin Franklin.
Oh.
Who saw that in Paris, the amount of candles they were using because of as they shuffled to follow the sun, if they held a fixed day, if they didn't follow the sun, then they had to hold a fixed clock. They would have to start using more candles at certain points in the day. And the numbers become huge. And it's like, well, this must be true everywhere. And it's like, there is a certain amount of element of truth to that. But, yeah. And then people said, oh, well, it's great for the farmers because the farmers, they get out of sync because they're following the cows, the cows don't care what time it is.
Cows don't.
When the clocks change, the farmers just get more out of sync with the rest of society. And then it has changed, been modified and tweaked because of things like the energy crisis, wars. And then the last time, it seems like there were 2 very powerful lobby groups in the U.S. There was the sporting goods manufacturers and the convenience stores. And the sporting goods manufacturers, because if it's later in the evening, more people are going to buy more sporting goods. And the convenience stores, because if it's later in the evening and more people are going out to play sports, then they're going to buy stuff from the convenience stores after the game. This is not how you should be running the world. But there's a problem. There's a problem with changing the clocks. And this is going to break one of our rules.
No death.
Death increases in the week after the time change, either going forward or back, because of accidents and because of people having heart attacks. Your chances of having a heart attack during the week immediately after is statistically significantly higher.
So let's look at that one for a moment. One of the things that Gordon and I were talking about while contemplating food before starting the stream was different people have various strength circadian rhythms. Up until the pandemic, I was constantly traveling, and my body vaguely sort of kind of was like, the sun is up, this is a good time to sleep, which I know is backwards. That's just how my body works.
That is.
But like I could adjust time zones fairly quickly and had no natural waking or sleeping time. I had effectively broken my body, and there's some really cool research that shows that kids born during particularly cloudy winters often have poor circadian rhythms because their body just doesn't experience that stark contrast between daytime and nighttime. If you have a home with a lot of artificial lights, that can also add to these complications. Now, on the other extreme, our bodies don't naturally want to deal with the trauma of experiencing an alarm clock going off in the morning. And a lot of people will find over time their body will wake up right before their alarm clock goes off because their internal rhythm has started releasing wake up now hormones a couple of hours before the alarm is supposed to go off, and they naturally wake up and avoid the alarm clock trauma. These are people with powerful circadian rhythms. You want people like me working night shifts and not people like that, because it can significantly shorten someone's life to constantly be switching their circadian rhythm around. And the more entrenched your circadian rhythm, the harder it is.
Yeah.
Now, my body is like, meh, okay, that was an extra hour. I'm good. I could have stayed sleeping for another 4 hours, but whatevs. Other people today still woke up at the exact same hour. And when I used to work at stables, we ran into problems where we had to basically, over the course of 2 weeks, feed the horses at a slightly different time, because otherwise you end up with angry 1,400-pound animals who don't know why you didn't feed them.
Yeah.
And if you've ever thought your cat was strong-willed in the morning, you have a cat, don't you, Guido?
No.
Okay, I misremembered who has
What?
cats.
But I know what you mean, because livestock can be a little bit more persuasive when it comes to not having been fed.
Yeah.
They don't understand the concept of a clock. But it is interesting. Cats have they're very aware of time.
Yes, they are. And I can tell you that my cats, and this is the weirdest thing, and like
Be louder.
Okay. This is Allie in the production booth. I swear my cats adjust their feeding schedule for daylight saving time, for the time change. They always want to be fed at 4 p.m. and they start bugging me at 3:30 on the dot. And they still do this after a time change.
Oh,
Does
wow.
it takes some time though, right?
No,
a couple days?
No, it's like that. They know, and I don't know why. And it's the weirdest thing that my cats adjust.
There must be some sort of environmental clues, a clock in the distance that's ringing.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just they're like in tune with my behavior.
Yes.
Depending on the time.
Yeah.
Change. I don't know, but they adjust for the time change.
Now, since most humans aren't like Allie's cats, what are some of the side effects that we see in both productivity and just general safety when we go through these changes?
It sounds odd, but they've done studies of VR visits in the week after, and they find more people cutting their palm as they're cutting their bagels.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's the thing
I
that
wish I
happened.
could make this
Actually,
stuff up. I don't need to make this stuff up. I've been ranting. If you go and Google my name and time zones or daylight saving time, you'll find my rants about it.
Okay, so give us some of your rants here live on stream.
So it kills people. More people die.
So tell us the ways. These are the ways that people die.
Vehicle accidents. Vehicle accidents are big because you're just not on your game when you're out, and it doesn't matter whether it's forward or backwards. You know, you would think, well, if like today you're getting an extra hour, that wouldn't be a problem, but no, it actually turns out to be a problem. Maybe it's more of a problem at the end of the day. So people get hurt. People have a higher chance of dying. People have a higher chance of heart attacks.
Yeah.
Not good.
The
things.
heart attacks is one that I've now read enough things, but can you explain to our audience?
Stress. It's basically your body's reaction to the stress, to the change of the circadian rhythm.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I think it's 10% increase.
Yeah.
That's a
it's
lot.
like disturbing your sleep rhythm is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, like Pamela, you can do it. Other people really get nuts if their sleep rhythm is thrown around. And 1 hour difference is manageable for most people, but it still affects them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an artificial change, and now we're going to see when the sun is going up and going down at a different point in our day.
Yeah.
And you're doing things that when it will be darker or lighter than it would normally be.
And that is another issue, especially for folks that have things like seasonal depressive disorder.
Yes.
Or folks who just like we have a lack of vitamin D, a problem in modern society where a lot of human beings they spend all of their time behind computer screens, inside buildings, working in warehouses.
Dark little basements with fluorescent lights.
We are currently in a dungeon. And as close to daylight as your lights may be, unless they are special lamps designed to give off the exact right wavelengths, your body's like, nah, you don't need vitamin D. You don't deserve it, fool. And this lack of vitamin D is causing all sorts of health issues.
Yep.
So folks will like be, okay, when I get home, I'm going to get my 15 minutes of sunlight. But if you're in the wrong part of the world, that doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And you said that you can do this. I bet if you actually if you could get into a sleep lab and get yourself on a normal daytime aligned pattern, you might find there's a difference.
So the few times I have been left alone for long periods of time to sleep at my own will and whim, such as when I was writing my dissertation and stuff, because I wasn't traveling at that point because I had my data, I just had to write. My body's preferred sleep schedule is to go to bed about 3 or 4 in the morning and get up just a little bit after noon.
Interesting. I mean, at one point, people didn't sleep through the whole night. They would sleep and then they would get up and then they would sleep again.
Yeah.
It was a different pattern.
I do that.
Yeah.
I do that. It's also like, it's an ADHD thing. Like, ADHD causes very weird circadian rhythms where it's like you get very, very exhausted in the middle of the afternoon and want to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Siestas are a wonderful thing.
I know because I like work an asynchronous schedule. I usually like take a nap in the afternoon and I'm great. Like my body needs that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Guido, you work in a brick and mortar store, right?
Yeah, you could call it that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I work in a government office. Mm-hmm. When the world broke, when the pandemic started, our whole mode of working changed, and we had to adapt to a remote working environment, they had to make accommodations because now people have to deal with a whole bunch of other stuff in their day that they didn't have to deal with because of the effects of the world being broken. And the practical upshot of this is that we have a little more flexibility. It used to be, core business hours. Now it's like there's a little more flexibility to that. They're a little more understanding, and I know people who will take a bit of a break. They will work their 8 hours, but they'll work it over a longer period of time. They'll take a break in the afternoon, take a nap.
Yeah.
I had never experienced siestas until I went to Greece.
Oh.
And it's just amazing. It's like, well, this is brilliant.
Well, and the other side of that, one of the things, I got to spend a couple weeks in the summer in Greece for a conference a few years ago. And prior to that, I'd been on a short sabbatical to Portugal. And these are very different cultures to what I have experienced, where if you take a nap, there's something failed. You have screwed up and are not an adult. And I'm very grateful to see that our culture is changing. But to be in these places where eating late, we're going outside at night where it's fully cooled off finally, and they don't spend as much money on air conditioning, because sleeping in a hot afternoon and then enjoying the naturally cooled evening is culturally what is acceptable. One of my greatest joys was being out walking one night. It was like 11 p.m. local where we were in Greece, and the playground was full of kids and surrounded by parents, and everyone was out. And here we close everything down when the sun sets, and I like that difference. Now, Carolyn B is asking an interesting question. Do we find that the effects of changing back and forth from daylight savings time are more and less deadly as you go north and south? For instance, if we look in Europe, where one time zone might encompass the northern tip of Finland all the way down to the southern edge of Greece, do different places get affected in different ways? Do we know?
Well, I mean, the farther away from the equator you are, the more gradual the transition from day to night is.
Yeah.
If you go to, say, southern Florida, or you go to Hawaii, it's almost clap on, clap off.
Yeah, it's weird.
And in Hawaii, at least, when I visited the first time in the early 90s,
Zoom.
Everything there was aligned with when the sun rose, and your whole day was very tied to when the sun went up and when the sun went down. It's like clap on, everybody's open; clap off, everything goes to bed. They stop being out. In Scotland, when I visited Scotland, which is sort of 55-ish degrees north of the equator, it was light well past 10 in the evening.
Yes.
And I've been up to Whitehorse in the Yukon, which is just shy, right around 60 degrees north, just shy of the northern circle. And you can have very long days, but you can also have very long nights.
Yeah.
So you would think that in some of these places where you really step out of sync with the daylight cycle, that you would see more problems. They would be more pronounced. But maybe some of those places don't change their clocks. As you get closer to the equator, they might not be changing their clocks.
So, go ahead, Gita.
This is something I experienced. Basically, we only have one time zone in Germany, but the difference between my hometown here in the west, in the Ruhr area, and Berlin, where my other part of my family lives, there's about 45 minutes difference in sunset and and sunrise, and that's especially weird when you. It's like 500 kilometers to the east from Berlin from here on, and you really notice the difference when you do just a 4.5 hour train journey back there. And the US is much bigger, and this is almost where we need another time zone in Germany. It's almost like, yeah.
And there's weird political reasons for how different places end up in which time zones. Here in the United States, one of the things that has always left me slightly confused is Michigan is in the Eastern time zone. And so growing up in Boston and then going to Michigan State for university, I would drive for like 14 hours and still be in the same time zone and still be roughly the same latitude and longitude. No, latitude. I did get it correct the first time. Daylight savings time, people. It messes with your brain.
Yep.
And so I've driven basically straight west, but the sun has radically changed its behavior, even though my clock hasn't. And these things, as you're saying, can just be confusing. Is especially when someone that you're talking to on the phone is like, "Oh wow, we just had the most amazing sunset," and it's like, "Okay, I'll see that in an hour."
Yeah. And I mean, so Canada has a province called Saskatchewan. They don't change.
Okay, we have Arizona.
Arizona is special. Because you can. On my Eclipse trip, we drove through Arizona, and you would drive in and out and in and out.
Because you're going through the Navajo Nation.
Yes, and my watch and the car were forever updating themselves.
Uh-huh.
And I was at a gas station, and the time on the receipt was not the time on anything that was nearby. It was just a time. The gas station receipt was on its own time zone, as far as I could tell. They just said, screw it. We're just going to pick.
Where's our parent institute based?
Yeah, Allie and I work for a company that's based in Arizona. Most of the employees are remote, but all of our business meetings are tied to what time it is in Tucson. So the entire staff is like, wait, when is the meeting? And you have to be careful, because if you write simply mountain time, because I'm wont to say Central Pacific Eastern Mountain Time. But if you simply put mountain, they assume you mean Tucson, not what time it is in Denver. Yeah. And those two times may not be the same.
Yeah.
And we run into problems because the staff meetings for PSI are at the exact same time that we were recording Daily Space and now have Daily-ish Space. Half the year, but only half the year. And so if we're asked to be in a meeting, it's like, wait, hold on, is this a conflict or not?
Well,
I'm just always like an hour late or an hour early.
Yeah.
And this is why the meetings should be booked in UTC, right, Guido?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
you're just slowly converting me, Gordon.
Best practice.
I mean, this has been something that I've been on about for 5 years.
Yeah.
And been making little inroads. If you notice the off-air slides, the UTC is the main time. I don't think I even put Eastern or Pacific on there anymore. I just list everything as UTC. Because it keeps it straight, and we're a science organization, we should be working, and a space organization, we should be working in space time.
And the other thing that ends up happening is when I make the slides, I list what cities, and then I add UTC. So it's usually Los Angeles or Vancouver, depending on how much space there is. I'd rather put Vancouver, but it's a lot of letters. It's usually Vancouver, St. Louis, Boston, London, and Sydney if there's enough space.
Yeah.
And so by listing the cities, you're not trying to remember the names of time zones. And then by putting UTC, you're grounding all of it in a simple offset. So this is what we struggle with as we go.
Until London decides to change from British summertime to British, whatever the other time is.
This goes back to there's several weeks a year when I don't know when people are. Pretty good at the where, not very good at the when.
And we have a spreadsheet that I've put a fair bit of work into to get time zone offsets for, because we used to anyways, I don't know if we do still, have social media that mentions Australia, and they're again on their own time zone offset, and I've got macros in there and pull down thingies so that you just have to put in what time you want it to be, and it'll do all the calculations. But it gets broken when we don't change at the same time because your convenience stores wanted to sell more coffee.
I'm sorry.
Capitalism.
It all comes back to capitalism.
But I mean, so they promote daylight saving time as being a way to save energy. And when the Energy Act, energy policy of 2005 or 7 was passed, they had a target of reducing energy consumption by 1%.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like a lot until you realize the number is enormous. So 1% of an enormous number is still significant. But there's been research to show, there's been lots of research to show that really changing daylight saving time, changing the clock like that, doesn't save anything. I don't think it's ever saved 1 watt, joule, whatever you want to measure your energy in, ever. There's evidence to suggest that it actually increases energy consumption.
Oh.
And there's a cost as well, because we all have to update our computers.
Yes.
Every single computer. Now, if you have a modern computer, it's got a file in there that will tell it when to change the time.
Yeah.
Assuming that you keep it up to date, because those things change. You would think that would be something, it'll change every couple of years. No, it changes much more frequently than you would think it would. And so people have to go and maintain their computers. And if things get out of sync, especially in the financial world, bad things can happen.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I
there's a
imagine
cost to that.
Go ahead.
There's a whole industry in keeping all the clocks running right after a daylight saving change.
Yeah.
Because mostly it goes automatically, but think of all the manual clocks like church towers
Like
and everything. And our city, I know that our city hall tower, there's someone has to get up there and do it manually.
Yeah.
When we do this. And there was a time when the city hall tower, where our shop actually is right across it, so we always look at the time up at the tower.
Yeah.
And for some time, one of the clocks facing in our direction was always wrong. The others were okay. So that was after daylight saving change.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
Yeah, we actually had a victim of the time change here this morning. The do not die, no death rule was not broken. However, I have 3 really cute, super modern little clocks in the house that you can stick your phone on and they will charge your phone for you. They tell you the temperature. You can set the dates in them. Gordon's trying to stretch the cable to get it on camera. I love these little suckers.
They're nice.
Despite the fact that they know what the date is, they don't autocorrect for daylight savings time because they don't know where they are. And Gordon nicely went to try and correct my cute little tiny clock that is telling us the time and temperature. And it was lying about the time. And while trying to fix it, one of my succulents decided it wanted to practice doing somersaults. And
it's not dead. You told me it's not dead.
It's currently a pile of dirt over leaves. It will be fully rescuable. But we did have a victim.
You need a little sign for it.
I have one of these little travel clocks, which is radio controlled. And we have one radio time signal here. I think it's in Frankfurt. But there's another one that is in England. And sometimes it picks up the British time.
Oh, no.
And then it's an hour earlier. And this is lots of confusion, and this is why I basically put it away, because I can't trust it. There's just a little symbol up there that shows it's which signal it has got, but
Oh.
it's basically unusable.
Yeah, I have a colleague who lives right on the border between Alabama and Georgia. And Georgia's the Eastern time zone, and Alabama is the opposite of Michigan. It should be the Eastern time zone, and it is not. And so I can be walking around his house, and my devices will switch randomly between which time zone they're in. And so it's one of these things where you pretty much have to turn off your devices, everything, if you want to know what time it is. And yeah, so we are dealing with fighting technology in so many different ways due to time zones and daylight savings time and the idiosyncrasies of the Navajo Nation and the state of Arizona having different opinions. And how do we get out of this mess?
Well, I mean, there was a company called Swatch that made Swatch time. It was a decimal-based time. And it was always, whatever time it was 8:63. It's 8:63 everywhere. Everywhere in the world. Swatch time was a decimal version of like UTC.
Okay.
Or we could use UTC, and people who live places where 0300 is high noon are just going to have to deal with it. The fact that there are other people who are living where it's 0300 is the middle of the night.
So it feels kind of like UTC is the Esperanto of time, where the idea of there being this one created language that is not specific to any culture and is the language of the world, Esperanto, it never really took off. Like, I have friends who speak Esperanto, but like they can't travel the world and randomly find other people that speak Esperanto most of the time. And UTC kind of feels the same. Like, you can be at Greenwich and people are still confused. How do we educate, especially in a nation that still uses imperial measure? How do we break into UTC?
Well, I have an Apple Watch.
Uh-huh.
And I use my default watch face is an analog watch face for the most part. But what's it say in the corner? You need your glasses.
Oh, it says UTC.
Yeah. I have UTC. I can usually do UTC right on the fly. I've gotten very good at it. I mean, I did work in essentially the UTC world for several years. So, but that's everyone has the technology now. Your computer behind the scenes, your computer is thinking in UTC.
That's cool.
It might say, mine says 10:44 a.m. on it, but that's still behind the scenes. It's all UTC.
Yeah. And back in the 1980s, when the digital clocks, digital watches, wristwatches were a big thing and had these time zone things on it. Everybody was saying, what do you need to know what time it is in the US or something? And back then, we didn't need it because the internet didn't exist yet. We didn't talk to everybody around the world yet like we do today. And nowadays, this is actually really useful, but most clocks and most watches don't have this anymore because the computers do it.
Right.
Yeah. And, two last things. I mean, if you watch one of our launch watch parties, you'll see at the bottom of the screen, there's one clock for what time it is at the launch site.
Yeah.
And there's one clock that's UTC. And the other thing is, like, we need to advocate. And there are places where they've got agreements. Okay, if our neighboring state or neighboring province will abandon daylight saving time, we will abandon daylight saving time.
Yes.
It's Ontario and Quebec and New York State. All three, I think they all have interlocking agreements like that. I can't wait. I hope that I would like them to pick the version where Eastern time zone would be UTC -4. But I'm at the point where it's just like, please, can we just stop?
Yeah, same.
I'd like to stop with the
Exactly.
summer version, but I'll take the winter version if that's what it means we have to do.
All right, so we have rounded out this session of let's discuss time and how it is.
Got that out of my system.
It's willing to be your friend, but it's not going to be nice to you. That's time. Up next, we're going to take a look at what's going on in Minecraft. We're going to get a tour from Veronica Cure. Before we do that, I just want to remind all of you, this is a fundraiser. We are here working to try and raise money. The economy is terrible. There's a lot of concern about spreading wars in this world, and I know people are just being super conservative with money. I get it. I totally get it. We really need to raise $10,000. We're currently sitting at $3,854, which is not even halfway there. We'll be fine no matter what, but we have so many new and amazing things we want to do for you. So spread the word, get other people here, inflict science on others, and let's make our world a more scientific place. And with more people in the room, well, throw a penny to your science communicators and we will bring you joy. And the more of you who have the ability to throw a penny, the more pennies we get. So fill the room with people. Anyways, that was super awkward. I'm going to go make more coffee while we hear from Veronica. Take it away. We're not quite ready yet. I don't quite see the watch stream button clicked. We're almost taking it away. Awkward transitions happen, people.
Thank you, Broken Symmetry.
Thank you for the bits, Broken Symmetry. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
And we're like less than $30 away from at least having a palindrome in the donations.
We can set higher limits for higher targets for palindromes.
I know. Thank you so much for everything that you guys give. Energy, time, bits, dollars. Just being here chatting with us while we stream makes all of us happy. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on over in the production booth.
Nothing. What?
You have to click
We
the
were going
watch
to
stream
throw...
button.
To Minecraft?
Yeah.
I didn't. Sorry. I was...
I'm apparently making coffee for both myself and the producer.
I already had my coffee.
Okay.
All right. We are throwing to Minecraft as soon as the stream loads.
Okay, now, Veronica, take it away.
We're going.
Please add equipment. Ooh, okay. So if you're good at making equipment, come and get some equipment going. Okay. Doors, always a challenge. This looks awesome. Okay. So we've got some tables. Looks like a little hood section. Oh, there's a wild Kerbal, I believe. we've got some dissections going on. Are they dissection of their rocks? I don't know. And what else? Oh, I love the purple lights. Oh, and chemistry as well. Nice. And what do we have over here? H2O for you, not H2O for you. Oh, I'm sure the chemists are laughing. Let's see what we got. Ooh, so pretty. I really like this design. The Precious. All right, let's go check out the Precious. Oh, don't go so fast. Danger, deep excavation. Yeah, it looked like it went down for a bit. Maybe, I wonder if it's a well? Well, you know what I think about danger signs. Let's just jump in. Whoosh. Nice. Ooh. Yes. Oh, and what's the orange? Ooh. This is interesting. At least I think so. I wonder if these are the canals on Mars that I've heard about in books. Okay, this is a lot longer than I thought it would be. Well, the good news is we've got plenty of water. Oof, it just keeps going. Okay, I'm just going to run back. This is cool. Someone really put a lot of effort into this. I like it. Probably should have investigated before I just jumped in the well, but it's Minecraft and death is turned off. Wouldn't it be cool if you could do that in real life? Like, I'm just gonna go do all the crazy things I always wanted to do, and I'll just turn death off for a little bit. That would be lovely. Teleporting would be nice too, but big diggy hole. Yes. So yeah, if you want to just dig a hole, apparently we've got plenty of room for that too. Excellent. So I'm assuming that you all have been hanging out with us, but if you haven't, here is our lander with its parachute sitting there. Got a little bit of building blocks. Got a lovely crane that really help with building the new buildings. And this was one of the first buildings. This was our first greenhouse conservatory type. And we've got a few plants left, but it is getting overrun with samples, as you can see. Although I did not expect all the samples to be purple, and I'm very happy about this. Oh, I guess there's some gray ones too, but we'll ignore those. Look like they're fossils. Like, I don't know, maybe there's life on Mars. Who knows? I'm just a tour guide. Haha. And then this is a big building. We've got lots of experimentation going on. We've got some places to rest and store some stuff if you need to. Ooh, there's buttons. And, ooh, more buttons. I like buttons. Oh, good. We got some more work tables so we can bring out some more samples and take a look at them. There's a nice little table. And, oh, what is going on here? We've got lots of bamboo and targets. Ah. It's almost like we thought we might need to aim at something. Well, I'll leave that for the others to explain. I always liked going out the purple door. And then we have our beautiful rover. I love this with the solar panels, and of course, you got to have the quartz block to power it. The struts are movable, but I wouldn't recommend moving them while you're driving. That could lead to a faulty unplanned evacuation. Is that the right word? Anyways, solar panels, because yes, we need lots of energy. And we've got places for our visitors to come and stay as well. This is a really nice fancy pants hotel that I believe was built by Not the Brain. And it's got all the luxuries. We got the little bathing area, soak your feet, nice little book nook. And then over here we have some rooms that offer a little bit more privacy than the open bunks. I'm sure you probably will want some curtains at some point. But these are really comfy, spacious rooms, especially for Mars. And it doesn't really matter what the cost to stay here is. It's still going to be less than the airfare to get here. So that's one of the nice things. Oh, purple. Oh, I love the flowers. This one looks like it's a little bit bigger. I think maybe I should claim this room. We will see. Huh. Those look like vines, but they're a little bit darker. Oh, you can climb. Yes, because that's what you need. You need some places inside where you can climb and experiment with the low gravity. Yes. You just walk in and there's people sitting up on the ceiling. Okay, so now I've heard I'm supposed to wait until one door closes before I open the next one, or else there's no point in having an airlock. Now, there are some places that you don't need an airlock for. It's this restaurant's only takeout. Oops. Well, the door had holes in it anyways. So we've got some lovely little orange red mushrooms, I think. It looks like strawberry shortcake to me. And I'll fix that in post. Let's see. And I don't believe this deep storage area's had any improve. Oh, it has a missing thing, but I don't see anything else.